The following program is a special presentation from 92.9 The Torch.
Hey yo, hey, hey, be a way, oh, hey yo, hey, be a way, oh, hey yo, hey yo, hey, be a way, oh, hey yo, Remember me, when the sun comes up in the morning sky. There I will be, soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me, down the road, hand in hand, you and me. Hello, hey, hey, be a way, oh, hey, hey, be a way, oh, hey, Remember me, when the sun comes up in the morning sky. There I will be, soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me, down the road, hand in hand, you and me. Hey, hey, be a way, oh, hey, hey, be a way, oh, hey, 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 be a way, oh, Remember me, when the sun comes up in the morning sky. There I will be, soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me, down the road, hand in hand, you and me. Hey, hey yo, hey, be a way, oh, hey yo, hey, be a way, oh, hey yo, hey yo, hey, be a way, Remember me, when the sun comes up in the morning sky. There I will be, soaring with the eagle so high, feeling free. Remember me, down the road, hand in hand, you and me.
Welcome to a very special presentation, Not One More, honoring missing and murdered Indigenous women and relatives. Bonjour, my name is Kelly Jackson, and I'm a proud member of the Lac du Flambeau tribe. I'm an artist, a mother, a sister, and a grandmother. And today I come to you with a very heavy heart and hopefully a very strong voice. This is a special broadcast on 92.9 The Torch. Our station, our stories, our strength. Today, we turn our attention to an epidemic that has stolen too many sisters, daughters, mothers, and grandmothers. An epidemic that lives in silence, that thrives in the shadows. Today, we will speak the names of those missing and murdered Indigenous women and relatives. Today is May 5th, National Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Relatives Awareness Day. It's also known as the Red Dress Day. Today is a day set aside to honor and recognize the lives of so many that have been impacted by the loss of our family and relatives. We wear red. It's a color that can be seen by the spirits. And today we rise those spirits in strength, remembrance, and unity. Across the U.S. and Canada, Indigenous women face disproportionately high rates of violence. According to the CDC, homicide is the third leading cause of death for Indigenous women. Women are murdered at rates up to 10 times the national average, and most of these cases go unsolved, and all too often, they go unnoticed. But not here, not today. Right now, in the heart of Lac du Flambeau, our community is gathering for the 5th annual Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Relatives Awareness Walk. It's taking place right now at the Bingo Hall. Started at 4 and we're running all the way to 7:30. We're gathering to really come together as a community and celebrate the unity and force of our community through drum and prayer, a 1-mile awareness walk, a water ceremony, many special speakers, and of course a potluck dinner. And for those of you who are able to participate, I know there are plenty of raffles and t-shirts that will help commemorate this day. And more importantly, keep remembering and honoring, participating, and helping and healing our community and our family, our friends that have been impacted by a loss of a family member. It truly is a time for reflection, action, and most importantly, healing. I was truly inspired when talking with members of our community about the various efforts that are ongoing to ensure we keep these conversations going, that we're talking about hope and healing and reflection. Throughout this presentation today, you're going to hear voices directly impacted by MMIW. You're also going to hear from leadership that is impacting change, both nationally and locally. President Shannon Holsey is joining us from Stockbridge, Muncie. We have family members that are joining us. And we have community that are walking the street right now in hopes that we will continue to recognize that not one more.
Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Screaming MMIW till they bring our sisters home. Yeah, spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Screaming MMIW till they bring our sisters home. Yeah.
Missing and murdered Indigenous women never forgotten, all nations is one. Standing together, we march to the drum. Sparking a movement, our voices will be heard. No more stolen sisters, 1,000 cases unheard. Wearing paint on our faces of these red hands. Time to uncover these cold cases. Rise up together, facing the facts. Native Americans coming first, we're sick of being last. Put your fist in the air. No violence no more, no violence no more.
Now look here, we making them nervous. Pack this squirmers, look what they're gonna do when they start the surface. Start spreading the news to the media circus. Shut up and listen, I'm serving the purpose. Not worried about the bullshit you concerned with. This be the shit that I know you ain't heard of. Indigenous women who's missing and murdered. Nobody bats an eye when a Native American vanishes without a trace. See, y'all be out here screaming whole lives matter, but apparently y'all, that's not the case. So many Indigenous women and men go missing and murdering across the states. So this for the ones with no force. Put a red paint handprint across my face.
Yeah, spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Screaming MMIW till they bring our sisters home. Yeah, spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Screaming MMIW till they bring our sisters home. Yeah.
Genocide, the destruction was so massive. We should've never helped them. Now we're paying for our actions. They couldn't take us out, so then they started taking our women and our children. But that's where they're mistaken. Cause now I'm turning evil, rolling hard like a fucking regal. So soaring in the game, I stay fly like a golden eagle. Menominate in my blood, it's not injected by a needle. We lived and seen it all. We lived to see the sequel.
Richie Rich, here to spread awareness for my sisters. I'm sorry to all the families lost. I know you miss her. HGM, Menominee tribe on your side, ready to ride until we end this genocide. Rest in peace to all that died. Hope the ones we lost be fine. From the reses we reside, spread the message, amplify so you can hear it nationwide. We will never stop the fight until our women safe outside. We some warriors ready to ride, watching until we satisfied.
Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Screaming MMIW till they bring our sisters home. Yeah, spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Screaming MMIW till they bring our sisters home. Yeah.
We live in the gutter with no pot to piss in. The papas OD and the babies go missing. The news and the press, they ain't paying attention to missing and murdered Indigenous women. Mamas and aunties and grandmas alike, and the rate keeps on raising. That shit just ain't right. No one talks about it. It's crazy to see, and what's crazy to me is these ladies got babies to feed. Imagine that you one of these little brothers wake up every morning and can't find your mother. She never did nothing but care for and love you, and her kill is still undiscovered. Watching you trust cause someone out to get you. I'm sick of these shirts and these RIP pictures. When you see your mama, best hold her and kiss her. Justice ain't served for a lot of our sisters.
My missing, murdered Indigenous, what we talking about right now. Them police and them tellies helping them keep us pimp them out. Dirty politicians listening, we coming for you right now. Free Leonard Peltier, we sick of talking it out. Put that camera on record, hit that button, press play now. They watching now, try playground, shooting little kids in that playground. That karma skin don't play around, and dark skin look suspect. Them white kids don't take rounds, but that's something we won't touch yet.
Yeah, spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Screaming MMIW till they bring our sisters home. Yeah, spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Spread awareness, let's bring our sisters home. Screaming MMIW till they bring our sisters home. Yeah.
Today, we honor the memory of Susan, or Susie Poupart, a beloved member of the Lac du Flambeau community. Susie was a 29-year-old mother of two, an inspiring artist and a cherished friend. On May 20th, 1990, she attended a party in Lac du Flambeau and was last seen leaving with 2 men. Tragically, 6 months later, her remains were discovered in the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest. Despite ongoing investigations, her case remains unsolved. We are joined today by Susie's family to share her story, their journey, and their enduring hope for justice. I'm very, very honored and blessed to have Jared Poupart here with us today. Thank you for joining us, Jared.
So I was 9, when my mother went missing. I have a few memories, not a whole lot. And it's been so long that, and I've said it before in other interviews, that without a picture, I can't remember my mother's face. It's been a long time. It's been a long road. A lot of, holding my feelings in for years. Just, trying to move forward, because that's what I think my mother would want for me, and all the other families that are affected by this. Their mothers love them, and I know that they'd want them to go on in the best way possible. So I try to do that every day. I try to treat people better than I've been treated, and give people some hope, because we are a good community, and it's sad that unfortunate events like this happen, and it's us on us. It's heartbreaking. Just thinking about growing up without a mother and seeing others with a mother, knowing I should have one, that hurt a lot. But I didn't really show it. I held everything in. I didn't cry. I just kind of was angry. I remember growing up very, very angry, and just not wanting to believe it, I guess.
Yeah.
But as I got older, the more stories I've heard, and people would always come to me and talk to me or tell me their problems, and then tell me stuff they knew about my mom. So I got a lot of stories that way from people that were her close friends, I guess. And I've always enjoyed those stories, even though it hurts to hear them. It still, at the same time, was good to know a little bit more about who my mother was. Because to me, my mom was, that was my world. And the night she left, I can't even remember the last thing I've said to her. I know I was at my grandma's house, but to me, it was just like a regular get dropped off at grandma's, get to go play, and she'd never come back.
I was reaching to the sky, trying to pluck a star. I was hopeful for a while, but they're just a little too far. Round and round I go. Where I stop, well, I don't know. Maybe I should fly, gently say goodbye. Someone call an angel down. It's getting too dark here on the ground. Someone call an angel down. It's getting too dark here on the
I got up. It's kind of like two sides of a coin, depending on how I think about it. I mean? Like, I appreciate that they hung on to the information as long as they did, and the things that are available today that weren't then are now accessible. But at the same time, just growing up and hearing people that tell me, if your mom was white, they would have solved this, And like I said, I hold no ill will towards those people that are doing their jobs, because I understand the law is different. It's not as black and white as we think it is. It's there's a lot to it. So, and they want to do it the right way, I guess, or get it done without. They only got one shot, they said. So I'm very hopeful with that, and just a lot has come to the surface, lately with a lot of this stuff that's coming forward, and it brings up a lot of emotions of, most of it's just being hurt, alone, missing my mom, having to relive that feeling again. I think, and I don't want it to affect my child's life. I don't want him to be sad. So I try to just make things. I just try to go through my days best I can, I guess, and do things that I feel are of good nature, I guess. But yeah, like I said, those cops are doing their job, and I appreciate that. I don't know if I want to get my hopes up that high, or it's kind of awkward to where I don't know how to, kind of lost with that feeling, I mean? I want it. It's going to take time is all I heard, and how you been waiting, how long?
How do you feel that the community has supported you and your family throughout this time?
I got to hand it to the young girls that got this initially started, Alicia LaBarge and the people that helped her to get it going. And I'm very grateful that there are other community members that care so much for others as much, as they do, to even get this going. I mean, I'm very grateful that they have done these things, and because it has affected a lot of us on a lot of levels. Some of them have lost, their people to suicide, drugs, altogether. It just almost a lot of hurt and a lot of sorrow where there should be none. Our community, I was told we had a black cloud over our community because of the things that are done and have been done here. And I wish we'd be able to treat each other better. That's all. I mean, that could go a lot of ways in the way we treat each other. You know what I mean?
Butterfly wings, wrapped in the spring. And I'm golden from my toes in. And I'm reading poems and I'm singing songs. I got the neo soul, I got the tongue tight. See it in my eyes, see it in my thigh. Rolling around, singing no frown. Figure of speech, analogy, simile, and allegory. been running on about mothers and sisters, daughters and sons. Room for everyone, dancing and singing. No phone is ringing, babies is peeing while they aunties is clinging. Young girls, patrons of the earth. Young girls, take care of all the earth. Young girls, they need their own respect. Young girls, carry babies from their neck. Young girls, young girls, young girls, young girls. Young girls, young girls, patrons of the earth. Young girls, young girls, young girls. Nipples dripping nectar for the youth. We play with plants and we don't watch cartoons. Washing the rivers and prepare our food. This is what young girls do. Goddess of the moon, stars in the sky. Jah took me high and now get me by. Young girls, young girls, young girls.
On behalf of myself and my family, I'd like to thank you very much for remembering all the people that we've lost, and no matter what way it was, that are connected to this or not. I just want to say thank you very much, and keep up the memory of all the people that are lost in this community, because we all need healing. And yeah.
Thank you for sharing your heartfelt memories and your insights, Jared. Your mother's story is an incredible reminder of the importance of community, remembrance, and the pursuit of justice. We stand with you in honoring her legacy and advocating for answers. If anyone has any information about Susie Poupart's case, please contact the Lac du Flambeau Tribal Police Department at 715-588-7717.
I know you ask about me. You've wondered where I've been. Someone may have seen me hanging out with my friends. Maybe I'm not with you. It doesn't mean I don't care. Gone but not forgotten, I will always be there. I never meant to leave you. I didn't want to break anyone's heart. Leave her address in the window, a candle I can see. If it shines bright enough for me, you'll have to let go. I'll see you again. Until that day, won't you pray for an angel to bring me home? Many nights you'd lay there, what it must have put you through. It wasn't till you dreamed that I was there right next to you. Still you keep on searching, never giving up on love. Maybe there's a light for me that shines from above. Still I never meant to leave you, and still I never meant to break your heart. Leave her address in the window and a candle I can see. If it shines bright enough for me, you'll have to let go. I'll see you again. Until that day, won't you pray for an angel to bring me home? Leave a red dress in the window, a candle I can see. If it shines bright enough for me, you'll have to let go. I'll see you again. Until that day, won't you pray? Until that day, won't you pray that an angel will bring me home?
Also breaking this hour, the search for a missing Native American woman in northern Wisconsin. Lac du Flambeau Tribal Police issued the alert today for Melissa Beeson, last seen March 17th. Here's her picture on the right side of your screen. Police say her family is concerned for her safety. She has multiple tattoos, including on her neck, her arms, and her legs. Take a good look at this picture. We'll post it on WISN.com and a Facebook page for you to share.
She was last seen on the 17th of March, 2025 in Lac du Flambeau, Wisconsin. She was wearing red sweatpants and a black sleeveless shirt and a gray sweatshirt.
If anyone has any information on Melissa's whereabouts or you see her, please call number 1 or Tribal Police at 715-588-7717.
She is a Native American female, roughly 5'7". She was last seen on foot on this road near the corner of Wayman Lane heading towards Route 47. She was wearing red sweatpants, a black tank top with a gray sweatshirt over it. She's got a medium build with brown hair, brown eyes. She has numerous tattoos. It's now been over a month since she was first reported missing. The tribal police say that they have covered almost 2,000 acres, have been searched, and they have also been using drones, underwater drones, to search the Flambeau Lake, which is to the south, and the Bear River, which is to the north. The first week of this search, the weather was pretty good, sort of like this, very calm. However, unfortunately, then the next week they got over a foot of snow. Despite hindering the search for a little bit of time, thankfully the snow melted very quickly. They were able to get their search teams out and continue their grid searches for Melissa. At first, Melissa's mother, Winnie, thought that Melissa just may be out with friends. She said that her daughter does like to travel to other states, but always in the past, she said that Melissa always stayed in communication. She never went over a week without calling. Now the family fears she may have been kidnapped by traffickers. Native American women are subject to a much higher rate, even on reservations. They are murdered at a rate of 10 times the national average. It's just absolutely awful. The Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Plus Relatives, or MMIWR movement, has been striving to raise awareness to the plight of Indigenous people in North America. The statistics are just absolutely appalling. May 5th is Red Dress Day, a national day of awareness for MMIW. Everyone is hoping and praying that she is okay. One thing that is very concerning is that the authorities have been able to pull over 400 surveillance cameras from all around this area from this past month when she's been missing, and they've not been able to capture one image of Melissa. There have been numerous reports of sightings that they have received. Sadly, none of them have been able to be identified. They've been cases of mistaken identity. Some incidents people have actually called in as hoaxes, which I just can't believe people actually do things like that. It's just crazy. The police also wanted to issue this statement to Melissa if she's watching or if she sees any of these reports. Melissa, please know that you are not in trouble. We are not going to arrest you or take you to jail. All anyone wants is for you to come home. Your family is frantic and the entire community is worried about you. There will be relief and much happiness upon your return. We all know that it is not your intent to cause such concern or worry. It exists because you are cared about and your absence is felt by everyone. Please contact your family or our department if you need transportation or money. All that will be provided to you. My thoughts and prayers go out to Melissa and her family, all the people looking for her, all the agencies. There's so many agencies that have gotten involved to help search for her. I'll keep following this story and bring you updates as they come in. I really hope and pray that she is found soon.
I'm more than the color of my skin. I'm a girl that likes to sing. All I know is what's within. Not just a brown girl in the ring. Go to school and learn their ways. is told how to think and what to say. While my mother says to pray, I pray for better days. God, please help them see they ain't no different from me. Not above, not beneath. Teach them equality. I'm not just a brown girl in the rain. I'm a girl that likes to sing. I'm not just a brown girl in the rain. I'm a girl that likes to sing.
Right now, our community is searching for Melissa Bison, and our community is really faced with challenges on how to, tackle that collectively, locally. But I think that has raised a lot of desire to know about what's happening, both nationally, statewide. And I know that you have incredible experience on both a national and local level. And so I'm really thrilled that you're willing to share your knowledge and your, information on what's happening and how can we, gain, or what are some of the challenges. So I'm just going to open it to you, President Hoseley.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly, and thank you for allowing me to share this space and sort of discuss, the challenges with regards to the missing and murdered Indigenous women and our relatives, issues that are obviously, deeply concerning and complex. As you had stated, for tribes as sovereign nations, they are not sub-sovereign to the state. And they have a government-to-government relationship with the United States government. I think for perhaps some people, there is not the understanding that tribal sovereign nations are just not race-based. We're politically based, as it's stated in the Constitution. And there is a trust responsibility that Indigenous communities have with the United States government, as well as with our state government and others in terms of that. And to this issue of our missing and murdered relatives, it is intertwined. As you know, as far as, the issue itself, violence rates of over, I believe it's like 84% of American Indians and Alaska Native women and relatives have experienced violence in their lifetime. And with that, more than 56% experience sexual assault. Can you even imagine that? I mean, you can be in a room and look around and think about that just statistic, and it's overwhelming, and then when you couple that with the homicide rate, I know that there was an FBI report that came out in 2023, and then there were some statistics, I believe, from 2020 where it discussed, especially homicide, and it was, the top 10 leading cause of death for American Indians and Alaska Native females from age 1 to 45. But overall, the third leading cause of death, generally speaking. So, I mean, when you sort of grapple with those kind of statistics, it's even, it's really hard to believe that that's really taking place. And then, to give you some context about what we're really talking about, when you think about missing persons, there have been continuous data aggregates about that, but and honestly, that is one of the challenges in terms of the statistics, because one of the largest challenges that tribal nations face is the lack of information and reporting of our missing relatives, and it's not because that there's not an attempt to do so. Sometimes it has a lot to do with jurisdictional issues, and there aren't cross-jurisdictional data sharing. The erasure issue that we all face and have faced since time immemorial in terms of since first contact and really how those cases are logged, especially with, for example, the Federal Missing Persons Database. It's one thing for it to be reported jurisdictionally on a tribal reservation, but the other challenge, Kelly, is think about this. 74% of all of our relatives live in urban sprawls. They don't actually live on our reservations or in our ceded territory. And with that comes another challenge. Oftentimes they're misclassified. So they're not even necessarily classified as Indigenous people. So it has a compounding or multiplier effect when you think about that. So it's not just a matter of, okay, well, they're just missing. Sometimes it's the invisibility because there's a lack of understanding of who it actually is. So, when you have that, compound the issue. And then, of course, it's the human trafficking issue also, with our tribal law enforcement agencies, involving investigations involving human trafficking, or even highlighting the vulnerability that is associated with our Native victims. And, some of the statistics I just spoke of really underscore the urgent need for awareness, advocacy, and certainly systematic changes to address the crisis affecting our Indigenous communities, especially because tribal nations and tribal leaders like myself, our roles are multifaceted. To your earlier question about, how do you look at this from every lens, whether it be just a municipal or a county level that rises to a state level, and that essentially rises to a federal level, and many tribes do not have criminal jurisdiction. So you have that other issue that we're challenged with as well. So it's just, the invisibility, as I spoke about, the lack of just understanding of who we're actually talking about because of the misclassification oftentimes of our Indigenous relatives. And there are very few laws. I mean, in 2023, they reauthorized the Violence Against Women's Act, but it still has yet to be, it will be up for reauthorization. It's really sad that there has to be an enacted law that protects our Indigenous people against violence. One would think that would be a universal issue, but yet we find ourselves time and time again not having a seat at the table or not having afforded the same protections than anybody else would normally have. And then it's jurisdictional issues of where crimes are committed, and two, quite honestly, the lack of resources. I mean, we're all right now at a, time and place, I would say what 100 days this year has been in terms of every time you have a change in a new administration, there are often more challenges and more transition. And now there's a lot of that happening with, having to face the reauthorization of violence against women, the compounded issues of the lack of resources that are needed for local Indigenous police departments, the lack of just understanding how to develop and correlate information and aggregates to let people know that our relatives are missing in terms of, and what I mean by that, to be clear, is making sure that other jurisdictional police agencies or the Federal Bureau of Investigation are aware that our relatives are missing or at risk, and making sure that we sort of thread that needle and making sure that we connect those dots and people are able to actually report them, and the visibility and the attention around that experience and their situation is addressed. There's currently several things that are happening. We know statistically some of those systematic barriers also are because of the lack of resources that are needed in order to do those investigations and those cross-jurisdiction coordination efforts. And we also know that there's very little data to support that. There's very little we lack databases to support that, especially, Congress we have a plenary relationship with the United States Congress. That is where we seek funding to fund things like domestic violence, DOJ programs, hotlines, monies to help support our police departments, monies that support our health agencies to address it, and to help families. And I think you would agree, Kelly, when we talk about our missing and murdered Indigenous relatives, tribal nations and Indigenous people are very community centric. So when it affects one person, it has a ripple effect of affecting an entire community. And that loss of just one person affects us all. So it has compounding effects.
Absolutely. I think that those are really incredible, insights into sort of the national and overall tribal and local, conversations around MMIW. I think also, one of the things for me, it just being, very, not necessarily directly connected with, state relations and federal relations, even tribal government, as a community member who's really looking at what services or resources are available for a family or for a relative. What kind of advice or information is available for the work that we do here in Wisconsin? I know that you serve on the Wisconsin MMIW task force. Is there something happening locally that we should be aware of?
Sure. Monday represents May 5th as a day of awareness, and there's symbolism, and it is one to be able to let our relatives know that we don't ever stop looking for them. We never stop caring about them, and it's a way to amplify allies. May 5th isn't the day of awareness for tribal nations, more so it's a day of awareness for those that are suffering from the victimization of it, and also those that are unaware of the erasure issue that exists among that issue. But the other part of it really is, too, to your point, is I sit on the MMIW State Task Force, and we're developing a report, and the report with Attorney General Call. And really it outlays sort of the systematic issues that we had talked about earlier about the lack of data that supports these. Because when you tell your story, and you appreciate this, and I understand you've worked for different agencies, Kelly, you know that in order to justify resources, you have to tell your story. And it's not just narrating that story, it's statistically proving that these atrocious and it's unbelievable numbers actually exist. But in order to codify that, you have to aggregate data, you have to tell your story. And also it helps tribes in terms of how we endeavor forward. Who are we talking about? As it is our responsibility to make sure that we meet the needs and requirements of our citizens. How do we support them, right? It's not just like I talked about, it has a rippling effect. It's like the victimization of it and the perpetual intergenerational trauma that has existed, since first contact. I don't want to make light of it, but when you think about it, the story, the characterized story of Pocahontas is actually that one of human trafficking. When you think about it, it wasn't, a young Native girl would just have done something like that. It's something about the change of the narrative, and that's another part of it. When we speak to deeply rooted issues, we know that, it's really important to be able to tell our factual history. That's why there is such a push through the Department of Public Instruction and Act 31 and making sure we do that. So people understand the true factual history that has taken place among Indigenous communities, not only here in Wisconsin, but among the 574 tribal nations that exist throughout the country. And so it's really critically important because, it's a well-known fact that people don't even have experience with factual Native American history until post-secondary education, or none at all.
Right.
And so, I always tell people there's no such thing, as no matter what Fenimore Cooper said, there is no such thing as the last of the Mohicans. We are here, we're 21st century Native Americans, and we are endeavoring as sovereign nations just like the other 573. And so it's complex because there are a lot of people that don't know that Indigenous communities are still they still exist in a 21st century perspective. So it has a compounding effect. And so that report is going to not only identify through the lens of tribal nations those statistics, but also the compounding and complex issues that exist with the systematic barriers. Even Kelly, the systematic issues around the stigma of addressing mental health. And we talk about breaking cycles and we talk about systematic barriers, but we sort of wash over the real issue. And fundamentally, it's those systematic barriers that exist. We're at an all-time high opioid endemic, and we're getting ready collectively as tribal nations to build an adolescent recovery center. And some of those are, when we did our feasibility study, some of them were as young as 9 years old, if you can even imagine that.
Wow.
And so when you think about that systematically or just fundamentally, 9-year-olds just don't become addicts. There's underlying causes systematically that have caused that, and it goes back to that systematic barriers. It goes back to the evolution of the doctrine of discovery, where in the name of religion, people were trying to impose and assimilate tribal nations who already were acting as sovereigns, who had their governing systems, who could support themselves, who could do all of those things in the name of a land grab, a land back, endeavor. And then you move to boarding school experiences to try to erase your identity. And then you compound that with all these other things. It's no wonder why, we are just having these more robust conversations in the 21st century. I'm quite sure, Kelly, MMIW has taken place since first contact.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting you're talking about this roller coaster relationship between boarding schools and the effect of systems that were designed to break down the cultural integrity of our communities, making us vulnerable to a lot of different, effects. I remember when I was interviewing elders that had attended the Lac du Flambeau boarding school, their stories were incredibly challenging and tragic, but probably the most compelling story that I heard was not from someone who attended the boarding school, but rather my uncle, who was, relatively young, actually. I think he was in his 60s when I was interviewing elders. And I remember him telling me this really compelling story about how his relationship with his children had been impacted. And he really didn't recognize it until he was, faced with the reality of something as simple as how do you put your children to bed at night? And he said to me, how do you think my mother put me to bed every evening? And I'm like, well, I have no idea. She said, you get your butt in that room, you shut the door, and I don't want to hear from you till tomorrow. And I remember thinking, oh, that sounds horrible. Auntie sounds pretty mean. And he said, well, why do you think she did that? And I sat quietly for a while and thought, well, I really don't know. And he said, well, how do you think her mother was put to bed?
Right.
How do you think, and even more important than that, how do you think her mother's mother was put to bed every night? So you have 3 generations that were impacted by just something as simple as that tender, loving relationship between your child and that, it's the end of the evening, time to go to sleep, moment. That was not something that was part of who we were culturally. That was something that was institutionalized and systemically given and taken more rather from the community. So it really does lend to now our communities are faced with, rebuilding this cultural relationship with our families, with our children. And I do think it lends to what we're facing now, even with violence and particularly MMIW.
I think that's a brilliant analogy in terms of what that is, because it was sort of like knock you over with a feather kind of moment, right? It was so subtle, but so true, right? We are a byproduct of, our ancestors, right?
Yeah.
Intergenerationally. And it's so funny how it comes out in different ways. And I think, there's the identity crisis or the lack of respect, because of the invisibility. And so, I think what's encouraging though is you see this re-engagement by, Indigenous communities where there's language revitalization, cultural ways, food ways, all of these things that are kinship ways, all interconnected, because I've come to the realization, Kelly, no one's coming to save us. We're going to save ourselves, as we have since time immemorial. But I think to your point, it's that cycle breaking, that we have to also face in terms of destigmatizing mental health and calling it what it is. It is okay to mourn. It is okay to cry. It is okay to be upset, but to your point, being conditioned and just trying to go through the emotions and not feel those emotions and not connect with those emotions and work through those emotions will keep us right where we're at. So it's all of those things, but it's an encouraging opportunity for all of us to just self-reflect and know that no matter what, in spite of, first contact, assimilation, pandemics, putting us on reservations, stripping us of our language, our culture, we're still here and we're going to survive. And we're not just going to survive, we're going to thrive, and we're going to teach the world of how to heal because we're going to heal ourselves first. And I see that evolution happening. It's through people like you who are bringing awareness, using your shared experiences through music and through the way that you articulate in your songs and the work that you do. That'll resonate with people, and we will come together as a people and we will address this once and for all.
One of the eye-opening moments for me was just to have the comfort to have this conversation, right? Because it wasn't okay to talk about, you mentioned earlier some statistics about violence in general and sexual violence particularly. And I remember like a few years ago, well, maybe more than a few years ago, I'm getting a little older, but I remember the statistic came out. It said, 3 out of 5 Indigenous women are sexually violated before the age of 18. 80% of the perpetrators are non-Native. And I remember sitting in my living room with a bunch of my friends and an auntie and other relatives who, we've been in each other's homes every day, all the time. We never talked about any of this. So I was like, just want to ask the question, curious. I know this is uncomfortable, but of that statistic is really compelling. Of the 7 of us in this room, and there were 7 of us in the room at the time, I would really be interested to know of us who has experienced this, who is...
And everyone answered yes.
It was 7 out of 7. President Halsey, it was one of those moments where you're like, we don't talk about this. We're not talking about it.
Kelly, and we don't, because we feel ashamed and people find that very surprising about me. I very rarely share that. I have a platform and I feel like I need to use it. And somebody asked me a question, well, why do you do that work? Why is it so important to you? I said, because it's personal for me. I said, it's my pain to purpose. Yeah. I wasn't going to, because if I have that platform, I have a responsibility to use it. And I need to show our relatives that in spite of those atrocities and the violence imposed upon us, that we can survive and we can get past it. And that we can still be seen and respected and heard and not be ignored. And I think that's what it is. It's my responsibility. And it's a huge responsibility when you're given this honor of doing the work that I do or doing the work that you do, to tell those things, to normalize them, to not have to definitely be re-victimized by it through our silence, right? Right. Through silent suffering, is what I call it. And you don't have to, and it's not for everybody to understand. It's a personal journey for everyone, but you can get past it. But with that, we get stronger, we get smarter, we get more educated, we get more coordinated, and we bring more awareness. And that's really what May 5th is about, and it's about building allyship. It's about enlisting those people that are in charge who can make a difference, whether it be from a resource perspective or a legislative perspective or whatever it might be, to bring awareness to it so we can stop this vicious cycle. And so instead of our communities just surviving, they can start to thrive. And I think that's why we do the work we do, right? I mean, everybody has their own personal journey and story, but, I always say, and when asked that question, and I appreciate you sharing your vulnerability, because there are so many people that look up to you, and they look at our lives, Kelly, and probably think, oh, they have it together, and they don't understand, but we do understand for a number of reasons. And I always tell people, I am just like you. I see you, I hear you, I am you. And most importantly, I always say that I'm a tangible manifestation of my ancestors' resilience. And it's embodied by my platform to transform pain to purpose. And that's really what I do.
Wow. That's a really powerful statement. I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me. I also really want you to know that I admire the fact that you are taking the leadership that you have and using it in a way that amplifies voices for Indigenous women. I know that you're out there, not just on a national, state level, but you truly are an example of how the work you do on that larger level has a direct impact on our communities locally, specifically your own, but also mine. And I know that, you are aware of Lac du Flambeau's work right now and how we're faced with trying to find someone who's been lost since March 17th. I know that you have not only amplified the voices of communities across the country and Indian country for MMIW, but also thank you so much for sharing the insight that you have for our local community. With that being said, President Jose, is there anything that you want to share with our local community right now who's listening and probably marching, doing a 1-mile walk to amplify awareness for MMIW? Anything you want to share with folks here?
Absolutely. What I'll say to that, sister, is likewise, I admire your work, your tenacity, and your ability to work through very challenging things and still be able to engage the masses and care about issues and use that platform. So we sort of talked about pain to purpose. But the point is everybody can make a difference, right? Everybody has a job to do. It doesn't matter if you're young or old or a victim of this circumstance. It's because our relatives are just like your relatives. They're our children, our sisters, our mothers, perhaps even our grandmothers. But there's somebody's child. And we care deeply about them. And they deserve the same justice and the same attention and the same value given as anyone else. And what we are talking about is a human rights issue, a basic, fundamental human rights issue. And it does matter. And everybody has an opportunity to get involved. Everybody has an opportunity to effectuate change. And one of the ways, too, is especially if you're a person of voting age, representation truly does matter. You have to civically engage. You have to make sure, whether it is at a local level, a tribal level, or a federal level, that you find people that align with your core values and they represent them and they make sure that you are not left behind and that your needs are the same needs of any other person that they represent.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, thank you again, President Jose. I really, again, appreciate your time. And I want to appreciate again your time and attention to this matter. I know that this is very important to you and your community and our community and all of us. And so we remember our voices are here. Thank you, President Jose.
We are a part of everything that is beneath us, above us, and around us. Our past is our present. Our present is our future. And our future is 7 generations past and present.
Wake up, you can hear her cries. Wake up, stop trying to deny what you do and what you use has no consequence on you. Wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up. Rape the world and take away the layers of her skin. Fractured and divided, and she may let you in. Only for a moment will she tolerate your greed. Gas and oil and broken soil exceeds what you need. Wake up, you can hear her cries. Wake up, stop trying to deny
sun. We carry the fire. There is no greater message, there is no greater lessons. Our lives come from our essence. Wake up and heed the message, though we have gone astray. Your time is now or never. We have to come together. We have to find our way back to that sacred balance. We have to stop the damage. This is our final challenge. Together we soar, divided we fall. This is bigger than activism, bigger than racism. Our mother is screaming out, close that sustaining doubt. No more debating the facts, and stop all these heinous acts. Humanity depends on this pact. Just stand rock solid and tall. This ain't a hip-hop song, this is an action call. We gotta stand up and fight the powers that be. Together, one universal family. Wake up!
Who will be her voice, yes, giving you a choice. Decide where you stand on this sacred land. This is not a native issue or activism or racism. This is all the work together, standing strong as her protectors.
Yo, yo, yo.
Wake up, you can hear her cries. Wake up, stop trying to deny what you do and what you use. There's no consequence on you. Wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up. Just tell me which side of history you're on. Now, tell me which side are you on?
Which side you on?
So long. Which side of history do you belong?
Wake up.
In our report, we actually found of the cases that we looked at, 95% of them weren't covered in the media. And this didn't mean that there weren't videos. It didn't mean that there wasn't active ways to put this in the media. It's just nobody's cared. And I actually contributed to the report, which came out in January of this year, again, had very little coverage. And as the Indigenous community, we mourn for the family of anybody whose loved one goes missing and murdered. But what we demand is equity in this kind of coverage, because the lives of our women also matter. We need to see not only media coverage, but we need to see changes in policies. We need to see programming and interventions to understand that as Native women and Native people, we aren't higher risk of going missing and murdered because there's something wrong with us. We are at higher risk because there are systems of inequity in this country that place us at higher risk, and those are the systems we have to address, and it's going to take the entire community of the United States to come together and do that with us.
In our teachings, every life is sacred. Every mother, every grandmother, every daughter is a thread in this fabric of our community. When one is taken or goes missing, that fabric tears, and the whole community feels the loss. Melissa Bison has been missing since March 17th. She is not just a name on a flyer. She is a mother, a grandmother, a loved one whose laughter, strength, and spirit are deeply missed. And today we gather for the MMIW Awareness Walk. We speak her name because silence is not an option. Since the moment she was reported missing, the Lac du Flambeau Police Department and dedicated community partners have been searching. This has included aerial flyovers by the Wisconsin DNR, HRD canines on land and by boat, drones, flights, foot patrols, and kayak searches along the Bear River. As of this week, over 2,184 acres have been covered. More than 12,000 drone images have been captured and analyzed with AI software during flights and again after. The software has flagged many things for review, but still nothing has led us to Melissa. Just days ago, kayakers traveled over 5 miles of river while a drone scanned from above. On Sunday, trained canines returned to the water in a boat, continuing a search guided by hope, prayer, and persistence. Still, no sign of Melissa. We offer this update not to bring despair, but to honor the tireless effort, the love, and the community spirit being poured into this search, and to remind you this is not over. If you have any information, no matter how small, contact the Lac du Flambeau Tribal Police Department at 715-588-7717. If you would rather share information directly with Melissa's family, please reach out to her mother, Winnie Bison, at 715-892-9560. Melissa, if you can hear us, we are calling your name. We are sending our voices across the airwaves. You are not forgotten. To all those still searching for their sisters, their mothers, their daughters, for those who have lost their sisters, mothers, daughters, and grandmothers, we see you. We are with you, and we will keep speaking. We will keep fighting. We will not be silent. Melissa Bison, Susan Poupart, Aja Day, Sharon Dowd, Lavon Frank, Donna Peterson, you are remembered. You've been listening to 92.9 The Torch. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Not one more. In honor of missing and murdered Indigenous women and relatives, I thank you for listening. A very special thank you to those who joined the gathering today, and a very sincere thank you to Jared Bison and President Halsey. I leave you with this. May we always remember and always stand together. Gigawabamin, Chimigwich.